The being that's running our body is much smarter than the being that I created in my thoughts. The unconscious knows much more than the conscious. The unconscious is afraid to reveal to the conscious too much so that it does no more than it can handle. Within nature, we can observe the layers of how energy receives its form. In the human being, there are different organs, different parts that bring out the energy and decide how the person is going to think, feel, behave. All these layers, they have a hierarchy. There are certain organs that get consulted first and certain organs that get consulted later. There are certain organs who have more power to make decisions, can sense stronger signals, make bigger movements, take more risks. There's a hierarchy for how things work. The entire nervous system has a hierarchy, which signals are going to come in before which, so that we can contain our continued existence. And so, in the spiritual world, there's a hierarchy. There's a hierarchy of how our existence became to be the way that it is. Who decided and when did they decide? And how was it decided? And who was consulted? All these things have realities, realities that are beyond our understanding. We cannot imagine, but they're there. They're there because we can see the result of their being. We can see the result of their decisions. And so this hierarchy is called a kingdom. A kingdom because all the way at the top, there's one. There's a power that cannot be differentiated, that cannot change, that is giving the ability and the capacity to all the beings that exist. It's giving them existence. And under him, under that being, under that force, it starts to separate into different distinctions until it becomes the complex reality that we have access to. So each one of us is a remote control of the universe. When there was only one being, this was very obvious. Even when there were thousands of beings, this was still very obvious. Now that there are billions of beings, it's not obvious at all, because the power gets split between different beings, even though each one gets to practice their power according to their level and according to their development. So the more they have the capacity to focus their energy, they might be more powerful than thousands or millions of others. But nevertheless, it's very difficult to realize the effect we have on our environment because there are so many of us. But the effect is still the same. The effect is still very real. And so this kingdom has gotten into a bit of trouble because the constituents are not getting along. And so the unity does not reign as the king of the kingdom. There are too many revolts. There are too many factions. There are too many different agendas trying to play out in his kingdom for it to even be called a kingdom. So this is the time where we remember the king. Remembering the king means remembering that all our expansions need to align with the fundamental truth that is beyond us, and yet we have to align with it. So at least when we know that it's not aligned, we should at least then change in order to become more aligned. When we don't know if we're aligned, then we just have the intention that we want to be aligned, that we wouldn't do anything that's not in alignment. And the way to know that is that as soon as we find out something is not in alignment, we change. And things will become. Things will show us if we're in alignment or not. So if we are authentic, then eventually we will be more and more in alignment.